Makita's coming off the top rope to deliver a knockout blow to DeWalt and Milwaukee with their brand new 2¼ horsepower, 1/2-inch cordless router. Check this out. Let's go. Makita will not be outdone by Milwaukee or DeWalt with their brand new routers this year in the cordless platform. Those 1/2-inch, 2¼ horsepower. These are very, very nice routers, and they're kind of expensive, but they deliver a big punch in a small package, relatively. Makita did not want to be outdone by them, so now they've come out with their own version, and it has a feature the other ones do not have, which I really, really enjoy. Check this out. So I've been accused of being anti-Makita on the channel because I haven't shown a lot of them. I did review the 36-volt track saw. The 40-volt track saw is laying right there, y'all, and I bought all of these. So I'm not anti-Makita, I just haven't played with them much until today. If you'd like to check out these routers, I'll drop a link in the description and the pinned comment, as well as that shop here on YouTube button so you can find them easier. Let's get into it. So out of the box, you get the bare tool, which is just the Makita plunge router itself, but you're also getting a 1/4-inch collet, a 3/8-inch collet, and then the 1/2-inch collet is included inside, already installed in the router. Then of course you get a dust collection adapter, and you do get the wrench to change those bits out, and it is a single wrench operation, so you have a push button that will lock that spindle so you can change the bits. It's kind of similar to what you got in the package with the DeWalt and even the Milwaukee, depending on what combo kit you picked up. Before we put this thing through the paces and compare it to both the DeWalt and the Milwaukee to find out which one fits best in your shop, let's go over the features. 2¼ peak horsepower in a cordless router. This has been the year of cordless routers. Everybody and their mama coming out with a peak 2¼ horsepower cordless router in 2024 for whatever reason, and I'm glad to see it. My first impression, it feels a little gritty on the plunge mechanism, and we'll compare that with the Milwaukee and the DeWalt later. One thing I did immediately notice though was it's kind of a more compact design versus the other two. Again, compare later, but that's what I have it to compare to. I do like this thumb switch where it's free flowing in the up position, and if you want to lock it down, it locks there when it's all the way down. Now this does have automatic tool control, Bluetooth on the side here that you can pair with a Bluetooth dust extractor. So if you do have that hooked up, when you power this tool on, it will power on your dust extractor. That's always nice to see when they're added into the tools like this. As far as powering it on goes, you have to push this unlock button, and then you'll see the LEDs light up. That lets you know you are ready to power it on with the trigger. If that's off, it will not work. If it's on, it will work. Power up for the first time. Let's see what she sounds like. Soft start and a soft break, which is very interesting because some routers just stop. Suddenly, this one just comes to a soft stop. This router also features electronic speed control. What that means is it basically regulates the speed of the bit to try to maintain the constant speed as you power through your cut, so you're not getting it slowing and bogging down. It should ramp up when it needs to and back off when it needs to, based on your variable speed setting, and your variable speeds go between 8 and 25,000 RPM. This is a plunge only router. So you can't take it out of this plunge base, and there's nothing wrong with that. I thought I would have an issue with it on the DeWalt, but I don't. I like it actually. This will plunge from 0 to 2 3/8 of an inch. So you get a lot of travel here in this plunge base, and you can micro adjust it in a bunch of different ways. We do have the turret style depth stop, and there's 3 of those stops. So you can basically take small bites out of your depth of cut every time you flip this around. And you also do get the micro adjustment dial here where you can adjust this at any depth you need. So you literally get micro adjustment on this dial. You also get micro adjustment in the screws on the turret stop on all 3. So basically unlimited micro adjustments between 0 and 2 3/8 of an inch. You can dial in the perfect cut with this. Another feature here that I haven't seen on other ones, maybe I glanced over it, I don't know, you let me know. This is an upper limit, so how far up it allows the router to go instead of how far down, right? So you can adjust this at any point through there, and it keeps it from going too high. So you can use that for a variety of applications as well, should you only need to plunge and then come back up to a certain depth. Pretty neat. As far as the micro adjustment goes, the wrench included where you change the bits out has the wrench on that end to do that. On the other end, this is where you can use that on the turret so that you can adjust those depths, because where it's at, it would be very difficult to get a screwdriver down in there, so I'm glad they thought to put that in there. Ergonomically equal to any of the best routers I've ever used. Just holding it in the hand, it fits well. It's well designed in that area where the trigger's laid out. All that stuff is really nice. The way it free plunges or the way you lock it down is right there at your fingertips. So you have zero issues there. Installing the dust shroud, very easy. You just slip it in there, and then there's this little thumb screw that you tighten it down in the threaded hole. And as far as the power switch goes, there is a way to lock that in, so you don't always have to have your hand squeezing on the trigger. If you're doing a lot of routing, that is nice to have. Most of these modern routers have that on there, so it's good they included it. Now it's time to put this thing through the paces and see if it has the power I hope it has, and see if that variable speed or that automatic speed works as advertised. And then we'll compare it to the DeWalt and Milwaukee to find out who's best. Color me Makita Teal impressed. Very, very, very powerful router. I had zero issues. I plunged it to 3/4 of an inch with a 3/4 inch bit and just moved it along. I don't have an edge guide for this, so it's a little wobbly, but not an issue with power there at all. It does maintain that speed as you move it along. It's pretty interesting to see that in real time, in real action. But as far as the power goes, we're talking no issues. I wouldn't normally plunge to 3/4 of an inch on a 3/4 inch bit. You would normally take steps down. But I wanted to see how powerful this router really was. And this 40-volt battery paired with this router, whoo, it is nice. As far as dust collection goes, not bad at all. Now, there was some dust left down in the groove, but not a lot of it was coming outside of the router, just a little bit here and there. So the dust collection on here with this little adapter, especially for those straight cuts like that, was really nice. Now let's see what it does with roundovers and chamfers. Now doing the chamfer, the dust collection is kind of what you would expect on a really big chamfer bit like this. Because there's no shroud on the outside edge that's open to the air, it's gonna throw dust. The Milwaukee does that. The only one that's better is the DeWalt, because it does come with that little shroud that you can pop on the bottom, which I like. And we'll compare these three to see how they stack up. Let's do that now. Now these three are probably the top tier cordless routers that are 2¼ horsepower or 1/2 inch routers. Now, you could probably throw Metabo in the mix, which I have one over there coming soon. But these are the ones I've used so far. Now, as far as footprint goes, the DeWalt is fairly wide at about 12 inches. Then you have the Milwaukee coming in at almost 13 inches wide. And then the Makita is quite a bit smaller. It is very noticeable at only about 10 inches wide. Now, one thing I noticed immediately when I pick up the Makita is the weight and the balance of it. It is much better balanced versus these two. I think the DeWalt is probably one of the better balanced routers. The Milwaukee is top heavy, very top heavy. I noted that in my full review of that. And this one is balanced well, very similar to the DeWalt. I like the balance of it. It doesn't feel awkward in the hand. It's easier to use, especially when you're doing those edge profiles and things. When you get a really top heavy router, it does make a difference when you're going around corners, things like that. The only major difference I see here is the lack of adjustments on the Milwaukee. It does have just a step down, but there are multiple different steps there to choose from. So you're not really missing out on anything because you do have this fine tune here. It's just that the Makita and the DeWalt both have a little bit more adjustability, depending on how much you use that, as if that's going to matter. Now, all three of these are plunge routers, so the plunge function matters. This DeWalt is by far, in my opinion, the best, just because it is so ergonomic. It's very easy to reach with your thumb so that you can go up and down, and then you can lock it in place just by flicking that switch. It is very nice. The best plunge router that I've used. A close second would be this Milwaukee. The only thing I would kind of knock points off here is it operates similarly. When you let go of the thumb switch, it locks into place, which is very nice. But the power switch is non-existent on the handles. Because this is a fixed and plunge base router, you can take this out of the base and put it in the fixed base and use it as both. So that could be a positive if you're looking for a fixed and plunge base option. You just have to power it on with the switch on the router, which isn't that big of a deal. It's just nice to have the option of powering it on with the trigger. Not to say that this isn't nice, but it feels a little more gritty versus the DeWalt. You can even hear the smoothness. It still operates fine. It just feels a little bit grittier than these two. Out of these three, the DeWalt is the only one with the safety feature that when you twist it, it shuts the motor down, or if it gets a kickback, it shuts the motor off so that you don't injure yourself. This does not have that, Makita does not have that, and the Milwaukee does not have that. All three of these variable speed, all three 2 1/4 peak horsepower. All three of these has plenty of power to do anything you want to do. So it just comes down to the nitpicky details on which one you want, or probably more importantly is the battery platform you're already in. So what does this have that these don't? Well, there's a few things actually. First, remember the stop, the limit stop coming onto the top side. These two don't have that. That is unique here. Whether you need that or not, that's up to you and your applications. It also has the built-in Bluetooth, so you can Bluetooth that to a dust extractor, which is unique. These other two do not have that. This is also a 40-volt max tool. And what that means on the battery, it says 40-volt max, and the reason it says that is this is actually a 36-volt tool. But what is cool about that, other than the fact that this battery is designed to withstand impacts, it's got circuitry in there that talks to the tool. I think these do that as well. But this also is designed for rapid charging. And if you buy into this system,
are you sure they can handle this?
You can put 2 of these into some of the more heavy-duty construction tools and have 80-volt tools. So that's pretty cool too. So I think that does set Makita apart a little bit depending on if those features matter. This is still one of my favorites because of that auto shut-off. This is probably my least favorite out of these three, and I am a huge Milwaukee fan. I think this is a good router. It just depends on what platform you want to go with. I don't know that there's a whole lot of difference in power here. Both peak, well, I know there's not, both peak 2.25, so is that one, but I think these are the best 2 options. And it does have that continuous power, and while I was researching this a little more, both of these say that on the website, that they maintain continuous power. But I didn't necessarily notice that in my testing. I would have to go back and redo all that, so maybe we need to do a whole comparison video with the Makita. Here's what I don't like about the Makita. First, I really wish they would have given us an edge guide in the box instead of just the router. That would have been nice to have. You use one so much, or I use one so much, it just would be nice to have. I do wish this was a little smoother, but it's not a deal breaker, just something I wish. I also wish the thumb switch was a little easier to reach on this plunge base. I have to take my hands off of the handle to basically push that down to lock it in place, unlike the DeWalt where you could just do it all with one hand inside the reach of having your hand on the grip. It just makes it safer and just all around easier to use. Overall, the Makita is an excellent choice. This is a very nice router. They're all similarly priced at about $350, give or take a few dollars, without a battery. So all these are bare tool at that price. But you're getting a 2 1/4 horsepower cordless router, which we haven't seen before other than Makita, and it's got a ton of features packed right in. Could be the only router you need for woodworking, depending on what you're doing. That's all I have to say about that. I think this DeWalt router is going to change woodworking forever. There's a video all about that. You got to go check it out. Click in that box, get you the big old virtual fist bump. Thanks for watching.